Hi, Kay.
Hi, Trish. We're excited today.
We are so excited. You are in a hotel room in where, my love? Where are you?
I'm in Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids. You and
Mission.
Leanne are on the road.
Yep, on the road. Yes.
And you all were awesome enough to say, you know what? Yeah, we're on the road, but let's do a very special episode today with our dear girlfriend, partner in crime, and world rock star comedian, Leanne Morgan.
Yes. Leanne agreed to take her afternoon. That would have probably been a comedy nap and talk to us because she loves us.
She does.
And we
we're
love
grateful.
her. And so I can't wait to get into it.
Y'all, this one's going to be a doozy. It will definitely be, Karen and I'll tell you now, this will absolutely be a multi-part episode because when they get the three of us together, honey.
Yes.
So remember to rate, subscribe, and review the podcast. We'd love for you to, share it with people. Share this episode because that the three of us will get into life lessons. Leanne's always got gems. So please share it with whatever girlfriend it's going to resonate with. It'd mean the world to us for sure.
And we have a lot of history to cover. So it's gonna take a while. So it's gonna be a fun ride. So definitely you want to watch this one. Listen and watch.
Listen and watch. You can watch it on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys, you can watch us now. So you can watch us and subscribe to us on YouTube at What I Know So Far Pod, which is fantastic. So listen, watch, whatever way you ingest us. Just let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. And without further ado, let's talk to Leanne Morgan.
Yay!
You gotta be just who you are. You gotta be just who you are. Don't let them sway you. No one can change you. You gotta be just who you are.
Girls, I'm so excited. And first of all, everybody looks amazing for a Friday at middle of the day. I want to say how beautiful y'all look.
Well, y'all do. I've slept. If you notice, I slept on this part right here.
Oh, I slept on this one too. I licked it and sticked it for y'all. Pushed it down. Well, we're going to just get right to it because we have one of our favorite human beings, dearest friends, and angel on earth. Our dear friend Leanne Morgan is on What I Know So Far. Kay, we made it happen, girls. We all getting Leanne is like herding kittens because of her schedule. So that the three of us all got together at the same time. This is huge. So thank you for being here, Lee.
And everyone's trying to get Leanne on everything, and the fact that she's our good friend and she made time for us, we are so grateful.
So grateful.
Lord, y'all. Good night.
It's a big deal. We know. Look, when you get to be like,
come and mop or do anything for y'all.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you probably need to come tend to Jace and tell him to knock off. He's going through it. I said, Leanne you need to go watch I'm Every Woman. Men go through menopause too.
Yeah. It's his testosterone.
See, Leanne, I'm with you. I said, you need to go watch I'm Every Woman and take a breath. So I told him. But we'll hit that in a minute. But you know what I mean when you're like, okay. And he goes, you gonna go see the girls? I'm like, I am. Okay. He misses y'all. Okay. We need to get into so everybody knows how long we've all been in it and in the trenches together. I think we need to go all the way back and tell the story of how Leanne and Lil Kay met. And where Little Kay came from. How long Little Kay's been Little Kay. So we've been lucky enough to be friends. I've been friends with y'all for 15 years. Well, no, 16 years. Tessa's 26. We just worked that math out. But y'all have been friends. It has to be over 20 years.
She's better with time than I am. How long has it been, Karen?
2004 is when we met, doing the Southern Fried Chicks. An agent actually out of Knoxville said it was when blue collar was at its height. And they said, I was trying to do the female version of that and call it Southern Fried Chicks. So, me and Leanne and Etta Mae were brought together to do this tour. And so it was at AIBA, wasn't it, Leanne? Wasn't that where we met?
AIBA when we met. But remember, go back and tell how one of the agents under Phil Barber said, Leanne, you're the weakest link.
Yes. Yes, she did. Yeah, she told Leanne she was the weakest link. And
And I was. And I was. They had been doing comedy. They were, I had been doing comedy in San Antonio and Austin, but they had been doing it a lot longer than I was the greenest.
you were the greenest.
Do you think that means, how do you, like, I'm going to ask you, Leanne, did you, obviously, I would have taken that personal. Did you take it personal?
I did. When weakest link, I thought was a little harsh.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Because she wasn't the weakest link.
No.
But that was under also the fact that Brenda, Etta May.
Yes, just so everybody knows, Brenda Ferrari is a comedian, amazing comedian, who does a character on stage called Etta May, much like Dan does Larry the Cable Guy. Just to give you, so if we say Etta May and Brenda, it's the same person, so people don't think we've looped somebody else in, and she does this great, very Southern character. So there you are. So,
but under that, with her being as intimidating as she was,
Brenda runs a tight ship.
And that was, so saying I was the weakest link, and I know she thought that too, it was just a heavy thing burden to carry, at the time.
But such a great show and a great concept, by the way, because the three of you could not be more different, and like what a compliment to each other, sitting in outside seats.
Well,
she used a very poor choice of words to say you're the least experienced. We've just been doing it longer, but there's no way that, we knew immediately Leanne had something special, that she was gifted storyteller, everything out of her mouth killed everybody. So to say weakest link, that was a terrible choice of words. And I know was,
Agreed.
Get in your head when you are less experienced.
Yeah. Oh,
and I was
worse.
probably in 2004, I'm 58. So I was young and I was, what would I
38.
Were you
38. And I was,
young.
38 and probably starting perimenopause and all that. To combine, it was just a lot. I was scared. I had 3 little children, but I was so tickled for that opportunity. It was a big deal for me. I think it was a God thing. I know it was, because we were in San Antonio. I was working at Cap City Comedy Club. That was going great and all that. And then we moved back to Knoxville. And me having 3 little children, the Southern Fried Chicks was the best thing that ever happened to me back then, because we worked on the weekends. Chuck could be with the children. I didn't have to go and do clubs and be gone Wednesday to Sunday.
That's right.
That was the only way I could keep going, was something like that. And I know God sent that to me, because that really helped me get my chops opening for them and being the first one.
I bet it also like strengthened your trust muscle with yourself, right? Like to go, I am good at, like, internally, like I am good at this. I do know what I'm doing, because you don't get to do it as much.
It took a while. I remember being scared out of my head every time I got on stage. I would feel like I was going to have diarrhea, and I would pray about it. And I was very intimidated and freaked out. And it took me a long time. I think I had stage fright, really. I probably never told anybody.
One big blessing too. One big blessing was we were in these theaters, and so you weren't working out your material in front of comedy club crowd. You've been in many comedy clubs, and you've had those people that are talking and drunk and all that stuff. You've had that experience, but it still got you a lot more in a theater crowd where people are so much more just respectful and listen, and a different experience than comedy club.
Right.
Oh, she's got some great stories about comedy clubs, but it was a blessing in many ways. And let me just say this, as fantastic as your Netflix special is, and the material you're doing right now that people haven't heard unless they've been in a live show, as fantastic as all that is, that first album you did, that material you worked out with the Southern Fried Chicks was hilarious. And people don't even hear that now.
That's the one with the baby on the hip. Right, Leanne, the CD with the baby on the hip, that cover.
Yeah.
Forgive me for not remembering
Yeah.
that. That's one of my all-time favorites. If you haven't listened to it, go in and
I don't even
find
know
it,
if you
y'all.
can listen to it. I think I've
I don't think you
taken
can.
it
I don't
Call
off
think
Judy
that-
right now and put it on Spotify.
it was on Spotify and I took it off.
Oh, it's
I
so
don't,
good.
It's called You Be Crazy Too. I may
You Be Crazy.
re-record some of it.
God, it's so good,
Yeah,
Leanne.
she's
Well,
re-recording
thank
it.
you. But that CD, I sound like I walked out of the woods.
We all did.
Oh, I can't even listen to
Back
it.
then, we had just walked out of the woods.
I was about to say we all did. We just came on through, pushed through the Appalachians. We're
But
here.
I'll tell you about the Southern Fried Chicks. But one thing I will pat my back about that I feel like I contributed was they said we need a tagline, and I said urban, suburban, and plain white trash. And I think that summed up, and I think it told a story, and I think that
100%.
helped us sell tickets.
100%, 100%. And you knew very clearly who you were going to go see. And I think that was the true, like what sold the whole brand. So the whole
three very
caboodle.
different. We were all three very different, and I think that helped.
I think so. And
Oh,
it
it was
also made a
wonderful.
complete show, because what people don't realize, much like a blue collar comedy tour, is you're seeing 3 headlining comedians. So when 3 headliners get on the same bill, you've got the same level of skill set, even though you at the time weren't feeling the same. You were, because you command a stage. And so you get in there and you go, oh my gosh, you have to actually train your stomach and your face because you're laughing so hard 3 different ways. And I think that's what's really powerful when you go back and watch the 3 of you in those. It's just 3 different ways that you're in, and you're all in. That's what I think's so cool. Oh,
There's
I hear a
little
baby crying.
outside of my Marriott.
Oh, somebody tend to that baby. Leanne's
She's
about
gonna go
to.
get
She's
it.
got mom ear.
I'm gonna go get that baby.
You fully went to mom ear. I love you so much. It was that a hungry cry? A somebody's not letting that baby get in the pool cry?
I know, darn it.
So when I met you, Leanne, that was in 2007. Was that 2007? I believe 2006 or 7.
I'm terrible with time.
I want to
I
say it
think
was
7.
2006. Yeah, but right at the
Was
end
it?
of 6, beginning of 7.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Because we were 2004 to 2006. We toured together in 2007. Is when that.
Yeah, and let me tell you that me and Little Kay bonded immediately. And we love Brenda, but it was me and Little Kay. And then I started calling Karen on the phone and telling her everything that happened to me during the day and what I ate. She probably didn't want to hear all that. But
And we've talked every
it was
day since for 20 years.
for me because we talked every day since. But I have, sweet, precious friends in Knoxville that I've raised my children with and that I have that in common with. But Karen was the only lifeline I had to. I really needed her advice about, and I still ask her for advice about comedy and about merchandise, that darn merchandise and all that stuff. And but we became friends too about, she got really close to my children and my husband, and it became more than just comedy for us. But it was really good for me to have somebody that understood what I was going through, trying to make it in this industry, because my girlfriends, were getting their nails done and everybody's like, do y'all want to take tennis? And I was doing all that too and living my life and raising my children. But I got to have Karen, to tell me, like, we were able to, I'd do a horrible gig, corporate, where I wanted to die. And I would call her and say, I'm quitting. And she would say, no, you're not. It'll be all right. And then she'd call me the next week and say, I'm quitting. She had some horrible, and so we had that in each other. We really did. And it's been a lifesaver to have her.
We would also go, hey, just did this horrible, terrible corporate gig, want to quit, but I recommended you for next year. And then the other one would go do the horrible gig the next year.
We did. We've done almost every gig to get something. We were always able to. People would ask me, is there somebody else you can recommend? I go, yep. And I would put her through, and she'd do the same for me. But we needed the money and we needed the jobs.
100%. I think that's what people don't realize about comedy is if you really do love each other, you want to make sure that you don't gatekeep it. You know, you make sure everybody that you love is working that event that you know is not nasty mess, like that is of your quality, because you don't want, you know, we're all cleaner. I'm probably the sassiest of all of us, but definitely not nasty. You know, you don't want somebody going in there and you're like, I recommended them, and then they're doing horribleness, and you're like, oh gosh.
You got to know somebody's got the sense to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
100%.
And but you said something recently. Leanne, that I thought was I'd never heard you say before, and I thought that was really thoughtful of you. And but that you went through times where, you know, you felt like you needed to go get a job because you weren't working much in comedy, and you just felt like, should I go do something else? But every time you started to, you didn't want to do that because then you wouldn't want to be perceived as not being a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and I understand that because, you know, even in lean times when I have thought through the years, maybe I should supplement, get something else going, you know, because a lot of times people will say, oh, you're a comedian. What else do you do? Like, what's your other job to support your company?
Uh-huh.
So the perception is so important, and you don't want to act like, oh, I'm not good enough that I had to go get this other job.
Right.
And so you wanted to be.
And people would say to me, are you still doing that little thing?
Oh, that comedy thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I knew that I had to have it's all perception in this business. And,
yeah.
And Chuck Morgan, let me tell you, there were times when he go, you need to do something, Leanne, when I couldn't get arrested. Nobody cared. And I would say, Chuck, I don't want people to think, because a lot of my work when I was raising these children was in Knoxville, private corporate things. You know, I couldn't get anything else, barely. I mean, I would do the same clubs every year, but I just wasn't known anywhere. And I didn't want anybody in Knoxville. I had to do those breast cancer fundraisers.
Oh, yeah.
I had to make sure they knew I could do them, you know, and that I wasn't working down at Target.
Right.
I love Target. I would love to work at Target someday.
Who wouldn't love it? If I got that Target discount.
Do what, Kay?
I said, and you love raising money for breast cancer, but you didn't want to be.
But those are the kind of gigs I was doing. I was doing ovarian, breast cancer, the Rotary. You know, it was the same people that would hire me every year. And I needed that money, and I needed to have the perception that I was a comedian, a professional comedian.
Right.
And then you go and talk about how you got into even being in the world of, because that's where you're at. You're in Southern Fried Chicks. You're doing, like you just said beautifully, I'm having to just keep perception. And it also is, I feel like, part of our heart, right? Like, because there's a little part of you that if you're doing something else, you feel like I'm not being true to who I am, even though you got to pay a bill. You know, so there's this weird, I mean, when I started in comedy, I worked at a tanning salon. I worked at the Hard Rock Cafe. I mean, I felt like I never slept. I worked 9 jobs. And then finally I started working, and then I got on TV, and I felt like I was not being honest because I really just wanted to be doing stand up. And it was a weird feeling because I love hosting. I love doing what I do, but my first love will always be comedy. So it was this weird, like, this is my job. This is my day job, which is bizarre to think, because most people think, oh, all everybody wants to do is get on TV. Yes, I'm grateful, but I had the opposite. Like, when I got on, I thought, oh my gosh, no one's going to take me seriously if I'm trying to get time in clubs. Like, I had to fight so hard to get time because I was a host. And I was like, no, I'm not a host. And it was a lot of work because last thing I ever wanted to do was be an actress that thought they were funny. I was like, please don't. And if you called me that, I'd want to lay in a ditch. Like, last thing on planet Earth I wanted was that title. So to me, what you saying that was very interesting because I thought I was in the opposite space of all I wanted to do was be on stage doing comedy, and I had to work it in on my day job that I worked my butt off to get. So don't act like I'm not saying, oh, I just was on TV. No, I was doing comedy for 7 years before I got on TV. So.
Well, and when we all started, I mean, I bartended, drove a limo, did it in pet sat. I mean, I was all kinds of things that I did when I was getting started in comedy. But, Leanne was in a different position from the get-go with having a family and children. And so she had to manage all of that with her, with her life and keep that comedy career going and that perception going, which she did, obviously paid off.
Well,
you know what? It hadn't turned out too bad.
I got to raise my own children. And I look back on it, and that was a blessing. But I always felt like after the Southern Fried Chicks, it just went down to nothing. And I couldn't get booked, and nobody cared, and all that. But I would get a television deal. I would get somebody calling me from Los Angeles saying, we want to
talk about that, getting Nick at Night. I think that's a really how you even got in the universe of being on Nick at Night had a contest, y'all, called Funniest Mom in America. Wasn't that what it was? Funniest Mom in America?
Little Phil Barber sent my tape.
Yeah, same agent.
Same agent that said we're the weakest link.
He didn't. That was somebody under him. But he was the one that originally pulled us together to do the Southern Fried Chicks. That was his idea.
And Phil always believed in me. Phil always believed in me.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
We love Phil.
He did. And so and the Funniest Mom was wonderful. But I'm always the bridesmaid, never the bride. I got runner up, and the judges, most of them were very sweet to me. One obliterated me for no reason. I don't know why, but anyway, but that's a contest. I hate a contest. I don't ever want to be in another contest, but I got Nick at Night, Funniest Mom, and that was sweet. And gave me some hope. And then I'm trying to think, I guess the first deal with ABC and Warner Brothers for a sitcom was before that. That's right when I met you. So I don't know the order of how those two things happened, but those two things had happened. And then that's when it was during Southern Fried Chicks. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it was during Southern Fried Chicks when you got Funniest Mom for sure.
Yeah, and then the ABC Warner Brothers was at the end probably when I was doing Southern Fried Chicks, and I was on the way out of Southern Fried Chicks. But I got the ABC Warner Brothers, and that didn't make it. The writer strike hit, and one day it was over. And that was my first big rodeo, and I didn't know what in the world had to handle that. I was devastated because I thought that was going to make it. And then years of, barely getting by and doing, but raising my family and doing. And I have a husband. I need to tell people I've got a successful husband. I never had to have money, really. The money I made, I bought uniforms for little children and got our hair cut. I never put it in a website. I was really stupid. I had 2 headshots probably in 25 years that I'd gotten done. I did not put it back in my business. I bought things for these children, and I was in charge of grocery money. And but I never had to struggle really because I had a husband with health insurance and all that. So I was very lucky with that. I didn't have to take terrible gigs that a lot of people have to take. And then, but I went through a bad spell. I think economic downturn when nobody was hiring corporate comedians. That was in there when we could have used the money.
That was in, I want to say about 2008, 2009, where comedy kind of hit that dead. It wasn't a dirty word, but comedy kind of hit this weird, it was like, they definitely isn't what it is now, right? Comedy went through this weird lull. That's the best word I could use, where people weren't really going to comedy clubs. And it was right after 2008 when everything went in the pooper in the economy. And I feel like it was like till about 2012, maybe I'm getting the numbers wrong, but it was in there that it felt like comedy took this real kind of stop. And it felt like we all had to just kind of take whatever was available from.
And there wasn't much available for me.
There wasn't.
they paid more for the shrimp than they would entertainment at a party. So
That's the truth.
I barely did anything. And then, but darn, when I think it's all over, then God would send me something else. And then that's when Matt Williams and Fremantle, remember Trish? Because I went out to LA and I had on braces and my underarms were burnt from Florida. I had sunburned underarms.
I met you for lunch. I remember it so well, and I brought you some lidocaine because you had a. I remember
it was awful. I had big braces on and.
I need to back up of when I met you because I want to back up to that because this is why I fell in love with you almost instantly. And well, it was almost instantly. I think it was the next day. So I'm going to back up and say I'm on a show called Clean House at the time. I am fighting to do stand up because the show I was on didn't want anybody to know that I could organize and design and also tell jokes. They were like, that's confusing. I mean, it's a crazy mess to think in this day and age now, but at the time they're like, you have to just do this. So I was having to get in every night at the clubs where I could. So I get a showcase randomly. I don't even know what it's for. I was like, yeah, I'll perform down at the Irvine Improv. I'm like, yeah, I'll come down. And it was for something for CMT. And I was like, fine. Who cares? Yeah, of course I'll come down. And I do it. And then a couple of weeks later, I'm in Nashville doing the CMT comedy stage, which was some, comedy show they did for a little bit, hosted by the sweet Melissa Peterman, who I love and adore. And I thought, this will be fun. And, I had a good time and I worked with Killer Bees, sweet Killer Bees and two other comics. And then, and Vic, good old sweet. Why can't I think of Vic's last name?
Vic Henley?
Vic Henley. Thank you. I had a moment. Precious.
God rest his soul.
I know. And they were just so sweet to me because I didn't come up on the road with them and they were lovely. Well, the second show that was taping was Etta Mae was on that one. And she comes barreling into the trailer and I've got huge rollers in my hair and she comes in all saucy and I was like, who is this? And she's like, I heard you were funny. I was like, thanks so much. I was just like, I don't know who this person is. And that was it. That's all. I met her. She seemed lovely. Beep, bop, boop. Didn't think a thing about it. And then I get a call, I guess about a month or two later. And it was from Steve Pritchard. And he says, hey, one of the girls is out because of conflict or sickness. I can't remember the yarn woven, but could you come fill in? Etta Mae saw you, in Nashville and would love to have you. I said, all right, let me look at my dates. Sure, fine. And I remember it because it was one weird isolated date in Addison, Texas, in a shed, like a shed show, which I had never done at this point in my life. And y'all, sheds are like metal barn. You feel like you're at a 4-H fair. And then I went on to do 5 more dates at a performing arts center. I think I'm filling in for somebody that's out, the show must go on.
I have never heard that part of it. Karen, did you ever hear
you don't
that?
know this? You don't know this part? Yeah. So I think I'm getting brought in to just fill a hole, right? Because the show must go on and they were like, here, that you get $2 in a Tic Tac. And I was like, I'm going to need $4 in a Tic Tac if you're going to have me out for
2 Tic Tacs.
Yeah, 2 Tic Tacs, please, and a drink ticket. Thanks. So I go, fine. So I, go get to this shed show in the middle of nowhere in Texas. And Etta Mae picks me up at the airport. She was driving through to go there. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's nice. I mean, mind you, I'm so green. I've either driven myself in comedy or I've, at this point back in the heyday, I had car service because I was on a TV show. So I was used to being hoop-de-doo. Now all of a sudden it's, hey, I'm picking you up. I'll slow down at the Dallas airport, jump in. So I get in with her and she's just telling me, you're filling in. And I was like, okay, she's asking life questions, doesn't really talk to me otherwise, driving the whole way. We get there and I was like, I just need to get ready. And so I'm trying to jack my hair to Jesus. Back then, y'all, I used to go on like a cartoon. I don't even talk about it, but high hair. And I remember I come back to this, we'll call it a green room because it was a shed. And Leanne is in there, and I'm 5'2" on a good day. I'm not as tiny as little Kay, but I'm smaller. And Leanne is shredded. All I remember was how tore up from the floor up you were. And I was like, she had Terminator arms, y'all. I remember this so
was
well.
I doing CrossFit?
Yes. Okay. So you have to understand, I've never met Leanne in my life. She's beautiful, and she literally looks like the Terminator.
I don't know. Let me tell people, I'm not pouring up from the floor up. I'm watching just pros, but
good. But I'm telling y'all, shredded. So, and had these guns out, and because it was a hot Texas shed, you had guns. Guns.
They
and
were my
your
Jimmy's
arms.
meat.
She was shredded up, and I come in, and Leanne. I've always said this, and because Leanne, if what you see with Leanne is exactly who you get. There's no other version of you. This is exactly who you are. If you've watched a special, that's Leanne Morgan, y'all. There's no like turn on, turn off. That's it. Well, I come in, and she's got this like face on her. And I'm like, hi. I come in just thinking, and I will always say that she was salty to me, but this is why. So she goes, I'm not going to go first. And I said, oh, that's okay. I don't care. Like, I was just like, I'm happy to be here. Like, I didn't know what I'd walked into. So and you'll hear this backstory in a minute for a while. And I thought, okay, well, and I was reading the room, and I was kind of checking out the way they're moving. And Etta Mae goes, we all come out at the end together and, just follow my lead. And I was like, okay. Like, I have no idea that this is like a show. I think I'm just a comic filling some time, right? I have no idea what I walked into.
Is this the night that the other women are there too?
Not yet. This is the first one. We were at this weird shed, and afterwards, Leanne, we went to this place called the Moose Cafe. I'll never forget it as long as I live, because it looked like a hometown Cracker Barrel. It had like a vintage store up front, and everybody's trying to stuff pies down our throat. Yeah. And you were being sweet and talking about this sweet man whose son was on house arrest, but he's trying to get him a job delivering for Domino's. And I was going, who is she? Because you went from this amazing show, you killed it, and we come off stage, and you're still a little icy with me, but certainly not rude. And I'm still trying to figure it out. And I thought, well, maybe, I couldn't figure it out. This, don't worry, y'all. There's the point to this story, because this is when I fell in love with Leanne Morgan. And we were at this place, this cafe, and you just worked this room like it was like watching Disney's Fantasia. You dealt with everybody beautifully. You remembered everybody's name. You worried about somebody had a goiter, and you talked them through that. And I was going, who is this person? And I thought, well, maybe I'm just new and she didn't take to people well. We have to drive the next day. We go to our hotel rooms. Everything's fine. Drive the next day to Richardson, Texas. And I say to you, when we're checking in the hotel, and it was a Radisson, it was nice. We even said, oh, how this is nice. This is for 5 days. And I said, I'm going to get up in the morning and work out and then walk. And there's a park next door. And you said, well, I'll walk it with you. And I thought, I want to see how her arms, I was like, I want to know her workout secrets. And I was like, okay. And you and I get out, and buddy, you're pumping them arms too. And we got out there, and you turned to me and you said, and it was this is when I absolutely, from this day forward, fell in love with you. You said, I'm sorry that I've been a little rude. And I was like, oh, and I thought, okay, good. She's aware. And you go, I'm doing CrossFit, and I haven't had a carbohydrate, and my middle baby's in middle school. And you just launched, and you go, and I don't even know if you know why you're here. And you're like, launch that bridge. Because it was like a little raised bridge. And we proceeded to power walk that little park next to the Radisson in Richardson, Texas. And you then told me the real story, really, that I was filling in for Karen, but I wasn't filling in. Karen was not asked, or she was unasked to be at this event. And so you were so protective of your friend. And I'll cry saying this, because I remember you must have brought up you hadn't had a car about 12 times. And I was like, I received that. Like, I received car.
It was awful.
You were you looked amazing. To be fair, you looked absolutely stunning, and we're arm pumping, and somebody was being rude to Maggie in middle school, and you felt bad for being away, and
she was being bullied. Yeah, by then she's probably great. Mm-hmm.
I remember this so well because at the very same time of all that life management, you were so protective of the fact, and I know y'all had been done dirty, and I'm not trying to bring up any of that, but it was the protectiveness of how much you love Karen. And I remember, and I thought, I want that woman to be my friend because you were so like, and then she should be here. And then you're like, watching out, there's a divot in that press. It was like all over the place.
My arms. I remember being out of breath because I was so mad telling you what was going down, and I was going.
Yes,
because I wasn't good cardio health. Probably I had lifted weights.
You were strong as an ox. You could flip a tire. Strong as an ox. And we really
So I was basically kicked out of the Southern Fried Chicks, just so the audience knows.
So here's what happened. Just so y'all know, I thought I was filling in. What happened was there was a looming, a pending special for CMT. I got brought in for what I now know was to like test for a position. But at the time, I thought I was just filling a spot because there was a comic was not available. Like I thought another gig came up simply, right? That's where my head was at. So as I'm getting this information, I'm thinking, well, we've got to go get little Kay. Like she's telling me this. I was like, we've got to get her here. And like, it was so, I got upset and I thought, well, I don't want somebody's job. And Leanne's like, I knew you'd understand. And I thought, oh my gosh. And we went into the bar because that was the only thing open. There wasn't even a little cafe open yet. And we went to the bar at the Radisson and sat down. And I go, I need a tortilla chip. And your eyes go, and you go, I need a tortilla chip. And so we sat down, we got a chips and salsa and iced tea at the bar. And then this was the moment that I was like,
paleo. Okay.
What's that?
That was probably the end of my paleo.
Yeah.
But this was it. This was the moment that I was like, forever for life, you're my people. We're eating the tortilla chips. And you had told me, and they're bringing in other girls to test for this job. And I was like, what? Like I'm like, wait, I'm in competition. Like I can't stand I don't like competition. I'm not that person. There's room for everybody. And then we're eating these chips and Sonia White walks in. I love Sonia White. She walked in, y'all. And now I realize we're here for 5 days. I've come like I am going on a, 6-month cruise. I have 3 pieces of luggage. Sonia walks in with a backpack, walks up to the bar to us and goes, hey. And we both were like, hi, how are you? And she says, I'm Sonia. We said, hi. And she goes, hold on. I got to search for my key. I know I've put it in here. And she pulls that hairpiece out. She wears a ponytail on stage that she clips on. She'll be the first one to tell you. And she whipped that ponytail out and threw it on the bar. Just like a dead cat, like just whipped it up and put it on the bar. And Leanne and I both froze. And it was as if we were on a show. We each grabbed that chip and just put it in our mouths to not say anything because we were just kind of dumbfounded that the hairpiece hit the bar. And I thought, where are we? What's going on? And from that moment on, I was like, I love this woman. I will do anything with this woman. And that was that because I was put in a position I didn't know I had walked into. And you were so sweet to me because you were so protective of your friend. And I was like, I want that friend.
She was sweet to you because that's who Leanne is. But,
yes.
And she liked you, but her loyalty was to me in that moment. And that's why she went in there, combine that with not having a carb and you've got a.
Let me tell you something. I'm so tickled you're eating carbs again.
Well, and I tell you, we had worked so hard. And we had done that, the Southern Fried Chicks for, 2 or 3 years. And I had missed children's birthdays and we had sacrificed. Everybody sacrificed thinking that we were all in the same thing and then it ended up it wasn't that at all. Yeah. But Karen and I have said many a time that was God's protection over us. We would have never, 100%. We were at a point in our career where we would have stayed in it just to make the money and have consistent work. But that really wasn't good for us, our careers. It really wasn't. So we look back on it and think, thank you, Lord, because I don't think we would have quit on our own. I think we would have kept going just because as comedians, you just are so thankful to have work. But it
I
was
agree.
not the best thing for a career. It really wasn't. But it was a blessing. It really was, because it gave me the stage time and the experience. You know, it was. We were in beautiful theaters all over the South and Midwest, and I would have never had that opportunity anywhere else. It was a God thing. But it was a God thing when it ended. It was a God thing when it ended.
100%. 100%. I think it both ways. I'm grateful because I got to meet both of you. If I wouldn't have had anything to do with it, I would have never been blessed with y'all in my lives. And it also, like you just said beautifully, an audience in beautiful stages that weren't comedy clubs, that I got to work out a lot of material. So I will be forever grateful for the experience. But you're right. There has to be a time where you go, I could do this, you know, onto the grave, and it wouldn't have moved me along. So everything is for a reason. 100%.
Everything works out for a reason. Mm-hmm.
And and it brought us all together. And so that, you know, everything does happen for a reason. And just to put a button on that, they were not interested in me moving forward. And that's why I wasn't there. They had asked Leanne to come and basically audition for her own part. And then they wanted her to continue. Yeah, they wanted her to continue with Southern Fried Chicks, and she said no. And so they were really upset that she wouldn't go on. But, you know, and I know part of it was just a general decision for her career, but I think some of it, too, was a little bit of loyalty to me because she was so upset that I was left out. So, you know, friends for life. What can you say?
Friends for life. Let's go ahead and say that. And it's, you know what, it's worked out for you both.
Yeah.
So we're not mad at that even a little bit. That's what makes it so great. And that was good Lord, 2007, 8, maybe 2008 that all that was afoot. And then 2012,
I think. Right? Yeah.
2012, we all got a hair up our butt and thought, we have so much fun together. We should just go tour together, which was the most fun I've had on the road, but with World's Worst Name.
We've been through so many.
Country Cool. I always say it was World's Best Merch, World's Worst Name, because what are they? A bluegrass band, but so true, but so fun.
We should have put that on fur blankets for Colorado. Darn it, I still think that. We should have put that on.
We still own the trademark. We still own the trademark, ladies. That's not too late.
That was a wonderful logo. You're right, though. People didn't know if we were going to play
bluegrass
the film or what was
clog.
And I think about Little Kay. There was another time when I could not get arrested. Nobody cared. And I put that burden on Little Kay, and she had to book us and try to call and email and get shows for us because she had the contacts. I didn't know squat.
Well, I think that's what makes the three of us had always worked well together, because Karen always dealt with all the money. Thank God. Because I'm horrible at math. I mean, I want to... Yeah, I get sick to my stomach, but I also I might make sure everybody's treated fairly, but I'm just bad at math. Karen is not. And I'm technical. And Leanne deals with every human being. I tell everybody all the time, Leanne Morgan is as precious. Like, we would do merch post show, and Karen would run the credit card. And I would make sure all that merch was ready to go, organized, every size. I'd make sure everybody looked darling in it. I'd have you fit. And Leanne would be over there talking to somebody. And next thing I know, she'd go,
his husband had robbed Pizza Hut. She had 3 little children. Couldn't pay the light bill.
And she really wanted a sticker, one of our stickers. So Leanne's like, here, have a sticker. And I praise God, because we would do shows and we would make almost as much in merch as we did in our tour deal, because we would go out and, I swear to you, Leanne, I think about how much you talk to people and sold. You don't even know.
I don't know if I sold anything, but I was a therapist. I wanted to be a therapist if I was not a comedian. So I wanted to hear what they had to say. And a lot of people told me a lot of deep, deep stuff in front of that merch table. But I was glad to hear it. I wanted to, that was my role in it. And I was tickled to do it.
It was. Yeah, and everybody, I know, and you were always so open to listen to anybody's story, and it's, says a lot about where you are now, because people just feel like they're your friend, and and you're sincere about it. That's the thing. You're very sincere
100%.
about wanting to hear what they have to say. Now, a lot of the merch sales, Trish would come on at the end of the show and be wearing something and gave the illusion that everybody looked like her in it. So that sold a lot of merch.
That sold a
and
lot.
I kept up. Yeah, and I kept up with the money because she was sizing people up and telling them what you need. She can sell anything, and so can Leanne for that matter. But I can't. My sales pitch is, you don't want this, do you? And so that's why I just dealt with the money, because I'm not a salesperson.
No, I will say that is, Leanne and I both can sell air conditioners to Eskimos, and we would stand on opposite sides of the table. I would just be doing like 14 people at one time, and Leanne would be over there going, "Oh, like everybody needs these. Y'all going to the lake this weekend, and you need this, no, and then this and this, no, this will stay away from you, so you don't have any unflattering." I mean, it'd be precious. She'd be sizing. Trish, we have that in a 2XL? She needs this. She's nursing. I mean, it would be. And you realize how we were going through merch. And I thought, does anybody else like this, any other comic sit here and have this level of care? Like for the people. And I will say it was that level of care. That's what I think is so authentically you, Leanne, is that there is that level of care in everything you do.
Well, and Karen and I analyze this kind of stuff all the time about social media, but I really think we had a good product. There's obviously a demographic that wanted that show. We just did not have the marketing, the social media. I mean, if we had really put out clips and done now what everybody knows what to do, it's no telling what would have happened. I mean, we did okay for nobody even knowing, but
that's right.
We really could have done more if we'd have just had, some kind of way to put it out and find
Charlie's Angels of middle-aged comedy.
There weren't many female comedians out there doing that were clean, that somebody could come to a show and not be embarrassed.
I think
it's not political, it's not nasty,
No. And it was 8 to 80, I always say, even if there was a it's 16 to, 80 years old. I think that's always, to me, such a compliment. It's the Dolly Parton compliment of, you can bring the whole family to a show, which of course that's your audience, always. And there's something really amazing about that, because I call it wholesome, but it really is. There's something really wholesome about being able to share a joke with your grandmother and your mama and your niece. That there's something to that we've gotten away from. And I love that about everybody on this screen.
Well, and even at Leanne shows now, I mean, you'll sometimes see 3 generations that have come together. It'll be the daughter, the mama, and the grandmama all at the show and laughing, all of them laughing till their stomach hurts. And that's quite a feat to be able to appeal to that wide 100%. Of a age span.
100%. I mean, it's the Dolly effect. It's special, and it's something people rarely get to do.
Well, and one of the things that people say to me that I'm amazed at, and I think it's so sweet, they'll go, "My 90-year-old dad loves you." And I'm like, what? And they are bringing him to a show, and he's never been to anything. That's really sweet to me. And then I see little 80-something-year-old little grandmamas in there with their daughter who's in their 50s, and then their granddaughter is in their 20s. And it's special. It messed with my head at first. I thought, I'm not worthy of these darling people. And then now I'm settling into it, and I still don't feel worthy, but it's sweet. And when I started selling out in the comedy clubs, they said in 2019, they were like, "Where have you been? And can you come back?" Because they had never had these people in a comedy club. And I would see a little woman with a little brooch. sitting in the front row, drinking a Diet Coke. And I loved it. It was really sweet. But we could have all had that when we did Country Cool. And before that, Karen and I did Hen Party. We did everything.
Yeah, we always did something.
Everything we were big enough to. It's called perseverance. Perseverance. We just kept on keeping on. You got to in this business. And
I think if it's really who you are, and it's really it's who all three of us are, but when it's really who you are, you keep going. Your audience will find you if you just keep at them and don't try to be something different, I think.
Yeah. Well, and to jump to where Leanne just exploded, I want to share that I think it was October of 2018. Would that be the right time, Leanne?
I think when you were working in.
Was it 19?
Oh wait.
Yeah. What did I say? It was 19. Right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah. In 2019, it was the fall, September, October. She was at Zany's in Chicago. And she called me and said, I don't know if I can keep doing this. I've sold 20 tickets. And you said you were going to give it one last shot with these social media people. And, and if it didn't work, then, you gave it your best try.
Mm-hmm. I've gone up to Chuck and I cried and said, I had the dry bar special. It had done really well. It had, there was a clip
really
that came to me. And I was getting work, but it was not the kind of work I wanted. And it was killing me. It was a lot of work, but it was talking about a La Quinta on the side of the interstate. It would be, somebody called me in California, we want you, but we don't have a budget. If you'll do the travel's got to be taken out of it. And you got to ride in an Uber with a man high on marijuana for 2 hours somewhere. And then you're in a country, whatever, on the side of the interstate. And I was just spent. And I cried to Chuck and I said, I'm going to open up a hardware store in Knoxville. And I'm going to have rocking chairs where everybody can sit around. I will dazzle. I'm going to get a cheese wheel. And then we're going to sell canning supplies. And he goes, are you crazy? What are you talking about? And I go, he goes, you'll be fine. And then, so I, went, okay. And then I thought, this is not what I want. I've had all these development deals for sitcoms. None of them made it. That had been my dream. And I thought I was not selling tickets anywhere. Orlando, Tampa, they go, we love her. She doesn't get drunk and fight in the parking lot, but we're not having her back. She can't sell a ticket. And the man at Zany's in Chicago said, my manager at the time said, she loved it and wants to come back. And he was like, he laughed in his face and said, she's not coming back. And that's when I had hit the bottom and thought, I can't keep doing this. And I don't want to be in an Uber with somebody high. And I don't know if I'm safe. And I had gotten to an age where I was in my early 50s and I knew Charlie was going to have a baby. I had a child that had married and I knew they were going to have babies. And I just thought, I got to end this stuff. And then it was a God thing. I told my manager at the time, I go, I'm watching Jim Gaffigan, Nate Bargatze, all these people that I admire, and they're doing what I want to do. And Nate was about a year ahead of me, and I was going to these clubs where he was selling out already. And I thought, what is he doing? So I started watching what they were doing, and I thought they've got a social media person. And I was putting up pictures of Puddin', my dachshund, God rest her soul. I didn't know what I was doing, and my kids and all that, and I told my manager at the time, I said, I'm getting social media people. And he goes, you can't afford it. And I don't think you should. And he didn't know anything about it. And I just did it anyway. And I found these two young guys that got my voice. They were raised by a mama that was just like me. They got me. They're creative. They put that video out. And I was in New York, moving Tess into makeup school for television and film. We were in a tiny hotel room with all of her suitcases. And they put out Def Leppard, and Journey, and y'all, we had been together at Walker Theater in Chattanooga. And got little Karen, she got somebody to film us for $400. We all split it. And I just had been to this concert, and I was talking out of my butthole, and I just said, Chuck and I went to this concert, and everybody looked sick, and everybody had plantar fasciitis, and I'd never done it before. And she got it on film, and then these little boys. And I say little boys, they were my children, but they're grown men. They put that video out when I was in that hotel room, and I looked at my phone on Facebook, and I could see numbers going up, and it was in the thousands. And I thought, I felt a physical, something supernatural. I did. And I know everybody thinks I'm kooky, but I
believe that to be true.
I felt a wave come over me, and I thought something is happening. And I looked at Chuck and Tess, and I said, something is happening. And Chuck was like, the Uber's here, Leanne. And I was like, and so we moved her into a tiny apartment that cost millions of dollars. We had roommates that were on cocaine, and they didn't know to take the lint out of the dryer, and they said the dryer's not working. And Chuck goes, take the lint out, But anyway, and we were doing all that, and I just kind of blew it off and thought, well, I don't know, I got to get this baby moved in. And she had cancer. Tess had thyroid cancer. It was and we were worried to death about her, and they made it to where she could get her treatment and go on to the school. And then overnight, it was, Karen, do you feel like it was overnight? Like somebody turned a switch on in a dark room, and I started selling out all over the United States. You
called me and said, something's happening with this video, but I'm getting thousands and thousands of messages begging me to come to their city, and you said something's going on.